Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Middle Georgia Spotlight. I'm your host, Jack Ellis. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you being with us every week here on the Middle Georgia Spotlight. And we respectfully ask that you view us on YouTube, like us on YouTube, share us on YouTube, and subscribe to us on YouTube. In the Spotlight this week, he's been in the Spotlight for the last few years, but I don't know whether this will be the last time he would be in the Middle Georgia Spotlight, but probably the last time in the spotlight as to the hat that he wears. And that is the, I hate to call him a minority leader because we are in the majority in this state when I say Democrats, but he's a Democratic leader of the state representative, House of Representatives. Welcome to our program, Dr. James Beverly.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
Well, I set that up in a way, told the people that you are moving on, that you're going to pass the baton, if you will. Yeah. You're not resigning, you're just passing it off to someone else.
It's time.
Tell us what drove that decision and how you reached that decision.
It's time. It's time. Been in state government for 12 years and rose through the ranks and went from being a chair to the leader. And being the leader of the Georgia House Democratic Caucus for the last 2 terms, so for 4 years, you spend about 120 hours a week, every week, and it's nonstop. And you are responsible for how the state of Georgia relates to what's happening under the Gold Dome. And so pillars that I stood on and moved the caucus toward were, how do we have affordable housing? How do we have Medicaid expansion? What do we do about that? How do we create community benefits agreements in communities that look like mine? And from a policy standpoint, when you're in a minority, meaning that you have less than 50% of the vote, then you wind up finding that, man, everything you want to do, these guys block you at every single turn. And so getting back home to Macon for me was, all right, number one, can you move the agenda forward? You moved it as far as you can go. Now you got to get home and do the work. And now that I understand state government, now I'm back. And we're going to do some real work here in Middle Georgia.
And what's the work that you really want to focus on? I know you've dealt with systemic poverty and things of that nature, but what's the real issue that you want to focus on?
Yeah, right now is, listen, Jack, you know this better than me, and I stand on your shoulders, as you know. I've stood on your shoulders, and hopefully I made you proud. But 400 years in this country for African Americans not having the resources they need, whether it be benign neglect or intentional divestment, we need to be intentional about making sure that the resources that we have to have for our community just to thrive. And so when I come, now that I'm back, 5 things I'm going to focus on really seriously that you don't find in our communities ever. You won't find them anywhere in this country. A bank, a school you want to send your kid to, a doctor, a grocery store, a transportation to get you to a living wage job. Those 5 pillars, if we can deal with those things in a very honest, forthright way, I think we can start to turn the dial a little bit on what's happening in many of our communities. And so I'm going to focus on those things and see what God will allow me to do.
Let's get to the education in the schools. This past year in the legislature, obviously you didn't vote for it, but there was a piece of legislation put forth, a bill that was put forth and ultimately made it into legislation to take vouchers, to take money from public schools and give them to parents so they can put their kids in private schools. So how is that going to impact what you're trying to do with the overall education?
Yeah, so that's a tragedy. And the reason it's a tragedy is because when you start thinking about taking money out of public schools and putting it in private schools, the kids, they say, oh, the kids can go now to a private school. Well, most of the kids can't go to a private school because you can't even get to the school. The private schools that they're talking about, and in these rural areas, those private schools are 50, 100 miles away from you. Why are you voting for this foolishness, right? So the kids that you're giving money to are kids who have means to now travel to a private school. It was ridiculous. And so they politics is what it is. They twisted the arms of some of the rural legislators, got them to buy into it for whatever reasons they did it, and that bill passed. And it is a tragedy because most of the time the kids in our communities don't have the just basic necessities, right, to make sure that they have a sustainable education. Think about AP classes. how many high schools in Middle Georgia right now have advanced AP courses where our kids can get scaled up to be able to take the SAT, to skip a couple of classes when they get to college? We don't have that many. But the resources of the community should be paying for that kind of stuff. And when you take money and siphon it off and give it to a private school, the only kids who are going to benefit from private school education are kids who have the means to get to the private school in the first place and have the means to sustain them once they get there. And if you don't have that, then it's a tragedy. And that was awful, awful situation that happened in General Assembly this year.
You mentioned that you made us proud, and you did. We're very fortunate to have had have you as the Democratic leader in the State House. That was a big feather in our cap. When I say our cap, Middle Georgia, Macon, and Bibb County in particular. But what are some of the things, maybe one or two things that you really wanted to do, but you just couldn't get traction because of politics?
Yeah, the one, I mean, I'm back now, and I'm going to lean into this, but we have to create sustainable revenue sources in our communities. What are the community benefits agreements that people can benefit from right now? Like, for instance, if we had warehousing in Georgia, like you talk about gaming and all that stuff, people talk about gaming and this, but there's a lot of components to that. Towels and paper towels, and how do we get our community to actually participate in the deal flow of the things that happen? And the rail line, right, coming from Atlanta to Macon to Savannah to some parts of Florida. Like, why couldn't we do that? And so those things that stimulate the economy is what I really was focused on. How do we get community benefits agreements for any new emerging market in Georgia? How do I bring that to Middle Georgia? And that's what I was focused on for the last 3 years. Now that I'm out, and I'll be out, then I have relationships that potentially will pay off. But that was the one thing I think that if I look back over my tenure for the 12 years, that I wish that I could have done more, but politics got in the way, is making sure that resources come directly to our communities, and it didn't happen through a variety of reasons.
Well, what can you point to say I was able to either stop this from happening or we made this happen?
Yeah, look at the highway, okay? All you gotta do is drive through Bibb County. That 1675, I stood on your shoulders, Luke's shoulders, and I took that thing and opened it up. Now, I did that, right? The Community Enhancement Authority absolutely 100% made that highway happen. That was me. And y'all did it, y'all moved it along. I grabbed the torch and I ran with it, and now we see the progress of that. Now, Pleasant Hill's gonna change. It's gonna be a beautiful place. It was beautiful, it's becoming more beautiful. I'm back, we're gonna build some houses, we're gonna do some stuff over there, we're gonna do some really wonderful things over there. But that's one thing I can point to that everybody can see, that was James Beverly. That's for sure.
I congratulate you for that, because during my term as mayor, during my 8 years, there were people who fought me every step of the way. That it shouldn't, it's going to be Spaghetti Junction, it's going to be Macaroni Junction. People from Shirley Hill was against it, Caution Macon, everybody was against it, delayed it. But thanks to your leadership, it made it happen. You made it happen, and it should have happened a long time ago, but we're glad that it did, in fact, and it's ongoing. And that's about, what, $500 million project?
Yeah, it's a $500 million project. And one of the things, when I sort of got involved, it was through the Community Enhancement Authority when I started that to end poverty. One of the things that I realized pretty quickly is that the folk in the community need to work on these projects. You got all this money coming in, you got to move some houses. How do people get on to that? And so we were intentional about that. And the unfortunate thing was COVID happened and it froze everybody, right? And so, man, we've been through a lot. Our communities have been through a lot. And so hopefully we're going to see an uptick in what we're doing, get some folk back to work and doing some stuff on the houses. But more importantly, how do you get into the deal flow of what's happening around us? And I want to be intentional about making that happen. And so we'll see what happens.
You mentioned COVID. A lot of money came to the state, came to municipalities, school systems as a result of COVID. We know that we know the demographics in Macon and Bibb County. We have a lot of people living in poverty.
Yep.
It's systemic. It's been around, like you said, 400 years. Been around as long as the city has been here, 200 years. Yep. Did that money, in your opinion, state level, local level, has it made an impact? It was called the recovery,
the ARPA fund,
and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
Has it made an impact on the lease of the?
No. It's atrocious. It's atrocious. And that money could have been used to give people community benefits. The 5 things I mentioned, we could have done that just like that. You could have put a little small lending institution in the community where people don't have to go and get payday loans and all the stuff we got to do, right? You could give them a livable wage and some of the jobs that we created. I mean, we could have done so much more, not just tear down houses, but how do you build people up? And it's infuriating, man, to watch this. Now, I'm at the Capitol, right? And so you know this, Jack. When you are the leader, you are pulled away from your district because you have to deal with all the things that the state is dealing with, and it's a big job. And so you get pulled out of district, and people are like, where's Bev? Where's Doc Bev? Well, I'm up here working for you up here, but you don't see me every day. But the everyday stuff, I anticipated that, or I hope that the mayor, that the city council would do with that money what they needed to do with it to help the communities in which the people are suffering. And I haven't seen that. I see a new stadium go up, I see that kind of stuff happening, but I don't see the benefits for our people actually happening. And it could have happened, that money could have easily been put in the places where it would benefit the communities. There's 13, 14 communities in Bibb County that are impoverished, where people are really trying to figure out how to make ends meet. Man, we could have did so much with that money, and it just did not happen.
I heard, I wasn't there, but I listened to an excerpt. I think it was during maybe Macon Day in Atlanta. And you spoke about, and if I'm not quoting you directly, then you correct me. You said, y'all can talk all you want, but we had to have too many poor people in Macon, I think, something in Bibb County. That until we address that everything else is going to be up for grabs.
That's right. That's right.
Well, what did you?
And what I meant by that is this. Listen, if you're trying to make ends meet, really, and I got a child or two, they're in school, I got to get home, I got to work, I got to cook, I got to make all this stuff happen. If I'm trying to make ends meet, but I got to travel 5 miles to go get some groceries, right? Maybe my car ain't where it's supposed to be, right? I can't even get enough money to pay for the repairs around my house without somebody hit me over the head with a loan that's too much, right? The educational program that my kid, I got to do this work, but they got a homework to do after school. I don't have any after school programs that I can send them to, right? Oh, I got sick. Oh no, I don't have a doctor I can go to, man. I'm having this cough or this congestion. I don't even know where to go. So all that kind of stuff, Jack, that's a people problem. That's stuff that we can solve right now. And part of that money that came to us could have been, you can put local clinics in these 13 communities. You can put a little small lending institution in these communities. You can put a bodega, right? You can put a little healthcare, nice little mini market that sells collard green and kale and the stuff that we eat. You can put that, and you don't have to spend a lot of money, but you can build a successful community by putting these things in communities that people can walk to and get if they're in need. Those kind of things, the vision for doing that, we could have done that, and we still can. I mean, time's not up, but we still can do it. And what I'm saying, if you don't give people the basic necessities to have their life just have a modicum of okay, just a modicum, I'm all right. If we can do that through politics, let's do it. And it didn't happen. And so what I was saying in that thing is that until we deal with that, all the programs in the world ain't gonna help. If I'm sick and I can't get to a doctor, if I'm hungry and I can't get to some good food, we can solve that. And you can use municipal conduit finance. You can use bonds, and people will buy into what we're doing if we do it right in Middle Georgia. People will absolutely help, but you got to give them a way, and you got to show them a vision of how to do it. And that's lost on what I see in this community with the leadership that is here right now.
Now from the state level, you fill some big shoes, if you will, and I don't mean that literally. Stacey Abrams was the leader before you, and I guess there was one in between you all. I don't know who that person was, so that lady didn't make too much of an impact as you and Stacey did. But when you look at the state of Georgia, they says in play, it's purple, it's this, it's that, but yet all of the Constitution offices, all the statewide offices, all Republicans.
Yep.
So we're really kidding ourselves. Are we able to, how do we get some of the a piece of that pie, if you will, if they are controlling the whole pie. And like you said, you were frustrated that you couldn't get things done. Is that going to change anytime soon?
I don't know. So what you have is, I don't know. So we have races. So there's so many layers, and you know this, Jack. There's so many layers to politics that I know now that I did not know when I started. And many of the layers are you have internal politics where Democrats can't get along, like the Republicans can't get along. I mean, they recalled that. I mean, the Republicans got rid of McCarthy up there when he was the Speaker of the House. Democrats ain't no different, man. I mean, on some level we are, but on many levels we fighting each other, tearing each other apart as well. And so you have that. So you have this interconnecting wars going on both sides. So while you fighting a war on this front, then they coming at you with this, right? And so your head's constantly on the swivel, and you're constantly looking at how do we advance? The way we advance is this. Georgia has had 1 million+ people move into Georgia in the last 10 years. And it's growing. I mean, people keep coming. And you have this boon of technology, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, everybody's coming to Georgia, right? And so you're bringing in you're bringing in some folk who don't bring the same baggage from the north or the south. But there's a migration to Georgia now. And what you have to do, Democrats have to be intentional about saying, this is our message of inclusivity. Here's our message of progress. Here's our message of the future, what the future looks like. Help us to create it. And those people are coming in droves. And so our messaging has to be to the emerging markets of the people who are coming here. And like I said, 1 million+ people moved in, 90% plus of people of color. And so I see Georgia, it's changed. It's a matter of, can we message to them? Because right now it's a jump ball. Who gonna get them first? Mm-hmm. And I think that Democrats have the best proposition to do it. We'll see if it plans itself out. I'm gonna do my part.
You sat in a chamber where in 1868, several black men were expelled, Henry McNeil Turner being the most permanent one, that were state legislators. And they were expelled just because they were black, basically. Yep. And Democrats were in charge at that time, and these men weren't any women. These men were all Republicans. But what Henry McNeil Turner said in that speech as he was speaking of the in-migration, that we ended the Civil War with a whole host of black people at Georgia. And of course they went elsewhere but it was one of the largest slaveholding states because cotton was king and Georgia was the center of all of that. But he said that you have our money in yours, you have our education in yours, you have our land in yours, we don't even have a place to hold to get out of the rain, if you will. That's the sojourn that we started in 1865 when Georgia finally surrendered after the Civil War. So now we've come full circle. I think Henry McNeil Turner made a good case for reparation. What say you about reparation? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely, 1,000%. Listen, you know, I'm a proponent now. Like a lie will always outrun the truth. It will always, always, always. It'll spread the way it spreads. It does what it does, but no lie will live forever. No lie will live forever. And truth, as you know, King said, truth crushed to earth will rise again. When we put the truth into the ground, and the truth is that we have to be repaired for the stuff that they've done wrong. We have to be intentional about saying, whoa, let's take a step back. There's people who we look at every single day. You can't drive down the street without seeing the impact of what slavery has done to our communities through intentionality. And now it could be neglect. Well, I'm gonna turn a blind eye to it. We cannot turn a blind eye to it. There are kids who are suffering. There are people who are dying. There's diabetes running through our communities because we ain't got the right food. There's high blood pressure because we stressed. I mean, it is unbelievable. We need to be repaired. Y'all broke us. Enough is enough. Let's put our minds together and come up with the ways in which we can actually make people whole, and we should do that.
You spoke about diabetes and other pre-existing conditions in the African American community because of poverty and a whole lot of other things, and over 700 people, I understand, died, and most of them African American, died in this community, this city, and this county as a result of COVID. And here again, back to the money that's coming in here to address some of that. How many of it went back to those communities where those people, that I asked that question, I think we both know the answer to it. But let's get back to education, especially the college education. Recently, the universities in this African American, you can call them HBCUs or what have you, Fort Valley State. It was just recently the federal government stated that the state of Georgia refused to fund Fort Valley State by some hundreds of millions of dollars, as opposed to the University of Georgia. How do we correct that? Is that a political correction, or is this going to take an uprising from the people? How do we get some movement there?
Well, when that broke last year, I was with some of the lawyers who said we're gonna sue the state of Georgia for that. And so I stood on the federal courthouse steps with them to say this ain't right. Now, that's ongoing. I think the Chancellor of Regents, Sonny Perdue, I gave him a call. As soon as all this going on, he said, I'll meet with her. He's trying to figure out how to make it work. And so that's stuff that people don't see. But as soon as I was like, wait a minute, what? Let me call you. And quite frankly, one of the things that about even all of this stuff, I think that the Chancellor, Sonny Perdue, I think he has the right spirit about this, potentially, right? And that he's going to try to figure out how to make it work. And I give credit to where credit is due, right?
And I think you're right about him.
Okay. Yeah.
I've known him for a long time. I think you're right about it.
And so I think that, let's see. And yeah, we'll be watching. We'll be standing on the wall watching.
But let's get back to education and Senator Perdue, who's in charge of all the universities, the chancellor. And this is something that I've spoken to you offline about before, and some other people, is that in the state of Georgia, this Hope Scholarship thing, which, it's a lot of money. I understand they got $1.7 billion sitting aside right now in the fund, just sitting there.
Yep.
Well, when that thing came out, when Governor Miller, way back when, in the early 90s, when he said we're going to have this Hope Scholarship, we thought it was going to be on need, based on need, and of course you got to qualify to get into college, and of course we knew that mostly African Americans would be playing the lottery because that's who was playing the bug before the lottery.
That's right.
And so it's just a modern day of the numbers racket. But yet, we've changed this thing around that most of the people that's attending college, they don't have a need. It's based on greed. And the people with the need, maybe they have a 2.8 or 2.7 GPA. They can't get in, but yet we'll recruit a high school football player. He can go to the University of Georgia with that same 2.7, but his sister with a 2.8 or 2.9 can't get in.
Yep.
Something's wrong with that. How should we address that?
I think that you have to. There's several. I mean, that's a big one. But I think there's several steps we can take. Number one, if you want to go to college, you should be able to go. Just hope should be if you want to go, you can go.
And if you can get in,
you go. We got you. Because we have so much reserves, man. We can't spend the reserves down, right? I mean, the money, the reserves in education right now. In the billions of dollars. And there are not that many kids compared to the money that we have going to college right now. Kids are figuring out different ways. I'm not sure I want to go to college, right? When you start talking about African-American kids, it's even less. We talk about African-American men going to college, it's way less. So if you're an African-American male and you want to go to college, we got you. Right? If you're somebody who's don't have we got you.
Whether you can play football
or not. You want to come? Okay, we got you. You get through the first semester, you do this, okay, cool. And so you can set parameters once you get there, but let them get there. Don't stop them at the door. Whoa, you can't get in. And because you can't, let them in. We have the money to let these kids come to college, let them in. And then let them perform to the degree that they can. And then you'll start to see some real changes happen. Because a lot of times you don't have the exposure So you don't know what college is about. I see this. I don't know that when I get to college, I can go to the cafe in the morning and get breakfast. I can get lunch. I can go to dinner. I have people who help me study, right? People are not exposed. So they don't realize that when you walk in that door in college, man, your whole life is going to change. And so if we get kids to the door and let them in and let them perform and see what life is about, they'll let them make some choices. And so I think there's a way to do that. And I think that the money that we have that are in the coffers right now, man, we can cover that. We can cover that bill real soon, real fast.
Well, given your background, the medical background, of course, you graduate of Harvard, went to Johns Hopkins University with a master's in executive MBA here at Wesleyan. But the core of the things, the medical thing, and what we have been able to do here to stiff arm, if you will, the expansion of Medicaid, how does that continue to square with all the people that we have that's sick and dying, but yet the federal government is willing to throw all this money at it and we're saying no?
Yeah, this government, man. That's the governor. That's Governor Kemp. 300,000 kids. 300,000 children, not the 500,000 that we could insure right now. 300,000 in the last year have been kicked off of Medicaid. Kicked off? 300,000? And this guy's not held accountable? No, man, there's something wrong with that, brother. Now, and it's him. It ain't the buck stopped with Kemp. And we moved it, the House, me and the Speaker had conversations. We moved it. It's Kemp said no.
Yeah.
Brian Kemp, the governor, said no.
Will you continue to push for that?
Absolutely.
On the outside
Absolutely.
of government?
Absolutely.
And I think we all should.
Absolutely.
Pressure should be brought to bear on these people to do this.
Yep.
Well, we have about a minute left, and time goes by so fast, 30 minutes, of course, and I'm sure the last 12 years didn't go by as fast, but you have really made your mark in the State House, and we appreciate your leadership. We appreciate your service to our district, Macon and Bibb County. You'd say, what's next for you now?
I think I'm gonna be doing some development and really trying to develop communities. Really just lean into how can the skill set that I've acquired over the last 12 years be utilized in the service of our people. And if God would allow me to do that, I will be happy.
But we can't close the door on politics and the future in your life.
I don't think so. We'll see. I got to make a couple bucks, you know what I'm saying, and get whole. I got to get healed from that, because you've been in that space for so long. You got to get healed. And I suspect whatever God will allow to move me into, I will do.
Well, you're still young. You're very capable. We hope that you're not ready to walk away from politics just yet, either direct as an elected official or as some type of think tank, that we can continue to take advantage of your vast knowledge of politics and what you've been able to accomplish. I thank you very much, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, man.
Wish you all the best.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Indeed.
We've been speaking with Dr. James Beverly, who is a retired minority leader and a Democratic leader of the State House of Representatives. We wanted to talk about the upcoming presidential election, but we wanted to keep it at the state level. I'm sure he's going to be involved, and we're trying to return Biden back. The state of Georgia will be very pivotal, and I'm sure you will be at the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
And we thank you all once again for joining us. Until next week, I'm your host, Jack Ellis. Goodbye.